All right. Sadie Catania. Did I say your last name right? I've known you for a
Perfect.
long time, but I don't feel like I've
Yeah.
ever said your last name
Yeah,
in front of.
that's actually perfect. A lot of people say Catania, but my grandmother was very, quick to correct people that it's Catania.
Nice.
Yeah,
Good. So I said it right. I'm
you
so
did.
happy. That's a
Yeah.
good start.
There's no wrong though, really. I'll answer
Uh,
to any of them. Yeah.
so I'm super curious if someone asked you, what do you do for a living? What would you say?
Yeah, it depends on the person,
Mm,
right? And it depends on the situation. But overall, I think the simplest way to put it is that I'm an integrative health and wellness practitioner who serves individuals and families to help them achieve their highest potential for health and wellness through the holistic lens. And so that encompasses nutrition, lifestyle, environment, stress resilience, and that's where you come into our work. And we use functional labs to help us be a lot more accurate and targeted to speed up the process. But we also deeply honor the innate wisdom of the body and listen very carefully to what it has to say from a subjective standpoint.
beautiful.
Too long.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, it's amazing how extensive this work is and all the potential. First and foremost, just kind of what's emerged over the last 10, 15 years in terms of the field that you're in. But then, the amount of knowledge that is coming out over the course of time, it's like a fire hose of knowledge.
It is.
And I'm excited about the future in terms of this field and what it's going to turn into. I'm curious, what is the most common thing that you're seeing that is finally inspiring people to take the step to reach out to someone like you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, and I want to say this really thoughtfully because I don't want it to be interpreted as anything negative towards conventional medicine because that is a life-saving department of the healthcare industry. I think people are mostly, like you said, they're inundated with information and it has sparked their curiosity
Mm.
about what else? What else could be at play? And what could I be missing here? And also an interest in resolving things at their roots or at the source rather than just band-aiding things with medications. So I think that's what usually lands people in my office. Um, and usually after they have visited multiple doctors. I'm usually not people's first stop. I'm usually their last stop.
So, what is that thing that people figure out once they talk with you and they start going through the process? What were they missing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Usually they already have the answers, which is really neat.
Mm.
It's just about helping them listen to their story, hold space for it, and unpack, so to speak. We love to do something called a health timeline, especially for our most complex cases. That goes all the way back to utero, which people don't often consider unless they're kind of in your field or, mine. So they usually start to see the dominoes
Mm.
and the origin, like the original catalyst. We usually find that. And then it's like hindsight becomes 2020. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, now everything makes sense." And that's always so much fun to be witness to, um, because it's very empowering. And I think
Mhm.
that's my favorite part of this work is to re-empower people for, to help bring them home to themselves and their own, innate wisdom about what happened and how to correct it because they actually do know whether they realize it or not.
Yeah.
So Yeah, that I think, does that answer that question?
Well, it sounds to me like you're pointing to kind of an innate wisdom in the
Mhm.
body.
Yeah.
That first and foremost, the body knows how to heal itself, right? And most often we already know what habits we've engaged in for the last 20, 30 years that have led us to where we are. And so
Usually, yeah.
if we know that, then that points to the change in habits that probably would help us get somewhere else, right? But what I
Right.
really love about your work is that it also helps point out things that maybe you weren't aware of, because when we did my blood work, there were so many things that emerged that I
Mhm.
didn't realize was going on, um,
Right.
that really boggled my brain, that
Right.
were so helpful to know,
Yeah.
because otherwise I would have never known without doing that work, right? And the blood work that you conducted on me was so extensive,
Mhm.
but it was also at the same time very individualized. So
Yes.
tell me a little bit about that work in terms
Yeah.
of how you individualize what it is that you're doing to make sure that you're getting in at that individual domino that
Hmm.
started 20 years ago or even
Yeah.
longer.
Yes.
How do we prime people to really understand the dominoes that they're pushing today, that first domino that's going to affect their life 20 years from now?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Okay, so starting at the first part of that question. So this is when I talk about the body's innate wisdom, it's not just an intellectual point, starting point, but also, like you said, the labs. The body is going to tell us things. It's going to share its point of view. It's going to share what it needs, what it's missing,
Yeah.
where things have gone left. And how we determine what labs to run is through listening to your story
Mm.
from multiple lenses, through the paperwork that you fill out. But then we could just take that paperwork and then determine what labs to run from that. But when we sit down and we have our initial interview, which is a critical part to our process, and we just have that organic conversation with you, there are going to be so many other really profound things that arise, and we're listening with a clinical ear. And so one thing that I'll share, if it's okay, regarding our
For
work
sure.
together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we were having our initial interview, there were some things that triggered me to run a vitamin A marker. And it's a funny story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wild. It
Yeah.
boggles my brain.
And so if we were just going on, and this kind of like speaks to the sort of downfall of working with AI, or even working with somebody who just reads your paperwork or just reads a set of symptoms. The organic conversation is a critical point of
Mm.
intake. So we were chatting, and your vitamin A marker had come back. I thought this is why we test, we don't guess. I thought it was going to come back deficient, but it came back really elevated,
Hmm.
dangerously.
Yeah.
So above the conventional range. And so we were unpacking that and came to find that you had chickens, which I didn't know, and that you used feed.
Yep.
And then you looked up the feed and found that it had been fortified with
Yeah.
additional vitamin A, which had made its way into your system, and your genetics did not have a need for that much vitamin A. And so it had accumulated in your system, putting a real burden on your liver, and that causes a cascade of other impact. So the long answer to your question is how we determine what to run is by listening through a variety of factors and methods through our ears, our eyes, the labs, the intake forms, asking really good questions, and I think most importantly, being curious about the person in front of us.
Yeah. That was a crazy moment for me where we realized that, we started talking about my chickens, and you said, and I was thinking in my mind, we get organic feed, we do all these
Mhm.
things to help take care
Yeah.
of the chickens, make sure everything's good. And you're like, look at the feed and see if it supplements with vitamin A. And sure enough, it supplements not with just vitamin A, but all kinds of other things. And you made the point, that was a good point, that, when they supplement like that, it is not regulated. So they
Mhm.
can put as much vitamin A in there as they wanted. And I was curious, why in the world do they put vitamin A in chicken feed? and it's because it changes the color of the yolk,
Yes.
which to make it more appealing, which just again, it's so amazing just how many steps along the way a person can be doing something that they think is good for them,
Absolutely.
but ultimately is causing harm in some
Absolutely.
capacity. And the level of vitamin A that I had in my system was a dangerous, potentially dangerous level if it continued over the course of
Absolutely.
time to the point that it can cause blindness, which,
Which
you know,
we had also chatted about because you
yeah,
said, my vision worsened seemingly overnight.
yeah, it did.
Yeah. And then so those are now that can happen too with age, and we
Sure,
all know that,
sure.
right? So there's overlapping potential among many things, but our goal is to roll this out and then roll this out.
Yeah,
Oh no, we rolled that in, and now let's address that. Yeah.
yeah.
And that, I'll tell you, there's a term I learned a long time ago before I was in the industry, and I was learning all of these ways to determine if something was healthy. And when we're first entering the space and as consumers, we look for the organic label, and we look for the stamp of approval of certain organizations that have a vested interest and mostly financial.
Hmm.
But they start off for the right reasons, but end up usually financial. And I learned the term greenwashing.
Hmm.
And I really like that is an example of what was happening with your eggs.
Hmm.
They were being
It,
greenwashed.
yeah,
And so
that's a
we
beautiful
have,
term.
yeah,
I
we
love
have
that
to be
term.
really, yeah, we have to be so careful. And that's I know that we're not on social media very much, but we're trying to get there. We spend so much of our time working with people and just really just accumulating more and more knowledge and experience. And so we don't have a ton of time for social, but I would love to get on there one day and just share those bits, that could help really clear some of the muddy water about what appears to be good for us versus what truly is.
Well, I saw a report recently. People think they are shopping in a healthy way, so they buy something like hummus instead of all the other sauce potentials for their baby carrots or whatever it is that they're dipping in the hummus, right? And
Yep.
even the organic hummus had somehow been tainted with
Yep.
glyphosate, with
Right.
a pharmaceutical grade
Right.
um, uh, killer
Organic
bugs or whatever,
or
right?
whatever.
It's
Yeah.
it's just it's amazing to me that you can go through so much effort, especially as a mom, someone who is leading a
Oh my
family, right?
gosh.
You've got kids that you're worried about, and so you're trying to do the right thing.
Yes.
Are you aware of any tools that people can use to help them navigate that
Yes.
whole space?
Yes. So many. And we can, I'd be happy to link them below for, reference later. There's some that have come under speculation recently with
Mm,
regard to their motives. So it's a little tricky, but I'm going to throw them out there anyway. And, just discernment, right? Just when we're looking through at these things, just being curious and questioning. I'm gonna share a few resources, but then I'm also going to I have a caveat to it all. So EWG.org is kind of like the original groundbreaking whistleblowing organization on all of the, this isn't good for you. Yucca, there's a Yucca app. That's another good one. And I know there are tons others that I probably aren't aware of because there are new things coming on the market all the time. And I'm kind of tainted in that I already have my favorites
yeah,
and I
sure.
stick with them. I'm always keeping an eye on them though, because sometimes they get bought out
Mm,
by a bigger organization and then they change their approach. And we have to be really careful about that too. And that happens to some of our favorite products on a regular basis. But I wanted to share this because this is something that I see a lot in my practice that isn't really on the mainstream radar, not mainstream, but holistic mainstream radar, as well as it should be, in my opinion. And that's something called orthorexia. Have
mm.
you heard of this?
I have not.
So it's when we can become so consumed by the idea of like a puristic approach. Um, is this organic? Is this
Mm,
this, heirloom seeds? Is this, then we keep going. Like, was it locally grown? Do I know the farmer? Like,
Yep.
is it, has it been triple third party lab tested, by an organization that isn't tainted by another organization? Like it's like a little,
That's endless.
it's a spiral. And I had this experience when I was very, 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 very sick. And I found myself unable to eat most foods. I
Mm,
ate about 5 or 6 foods for like 9 months. It's really scary. I didn't leave my house. No one could really like enjoy their time with me because
mm,
I was basically vibrating with terror all the time about what was in that, and don't let them have that. And I had very, very little kids, and so I didn't realize, because it's kind of like workaholism. At first, it seems like a good thing. Oh,
mm,
good work ethic. Oh, she's very vigilant. She's
mm,
careful, but then it can quickly morph into something serious. And I have seen it play out in my practice with clients, you know, dramatically deteriorating in health because they are so afraid to
mm.
eat something that isn't rated a 0 on EWG.org. And,
Yeah, I can see that.
yeah, they can't buy furniture. This was us. We
Oh,
we had to get rid of all of our furniture because we had a mold exposure, and I couldn't buy a couch
yeah.
because I couldn't find one that was non-toxic enough. So
Mm,
we went almost a year without a couch. Katie
yep.
Bowman would have been very proud. She sat on the floor.
Yeah, yeah,
So anyways, there's a dark side, right? Like the pendulum can swing. We have our like conventionally produced everything over here, and we're eating that. And then
yeah.
you aware and awake, and then the pendulum can swing way too far, and things can become very distorted.
Yeah, it's so hard because, I'm a person that I do the best I can to stay in shape and stay fit, and I have, certain guardrails that I put up, but the
Mhm.
the range is kind of wide where
Yeah,
where I put
good,
those
good.
guardrails, but I have to be very careful
Mm,
because I have a tendency toward addiction easily on the
yep,
one hand, right?
same.
And I could easily also go the other direction. I'm living in the country. It's amazing how many things I do buy from farms, and I'd rather be able to have a conversation with the farmer than
Yes,
not,
of course.
right?
Yeah, those are
And
all
so
beautiful
I'm
things.
in
Yeah.
that strange world where I have the conventional, which is easily accessible, but then
Yeah.
I also have the farm side, which is easily accessible. I can drive 15 minutes down the road
Got a
to the
kid.
first farm. I can drive, 30
Gotcha.
minutes down the road and hit 10 farms, right? Which
Wow.
is incredible to
Huge
have that
privilege.
that that possibility. But I can easily see with different personality types that a person could go to the extreme either direction.
Yep.
It's so hard though for me to find the proper distance between those guardrails, right? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I continue to eat healthy and but within reason, allow myself to cheat, but within reason. It's always
Yeah.
that middle ground that is
Yeah.
so hard to find. What what have you found to be some tools that are helpful for
Yeah.
people to find that middle ground for themselves?
Okay. Yeah. This is great because I've recovered from my orthorexia, right? So I'm back in the real world now, and I've got, you know, plastic in my life to some degree.
Yeah, yeah,
Not anything I can eat food off of or drink food out of, but
yep.
so I think the most important thing is knowledge is power.
Mm,
And so it can be empowering to understand your own genetics.
mm,
For example, I have genetics that make mold a serious toxic issue for me. My husband has genetics that make it a non-issue.
mm,
I have genetics that make glycophosphate not a big deal. Like,
mm.
can
Interesting.
buy it really well. He has genetics that make glycophosphate a really big deal. So we have children together. So we avoid it
Yeah.
all. We avoid everything. So
Mm,
understanding your genetics and understanding what's important for you to avoid. If you have MTHFR or COMT and all these, fun little letters, um, they mean something important for you, and you can create sort of like a system, an operating system for yourself.
Mm,
Operating systems manual for yourself, like, I need to avoid vitamin A enriched foods,
mhm,
or I need to avoid Tylenol.
mm,
Maybe it's a big deal for you, maybe it's not. Probably always, to an extent. Um, so just knowledge is power. And then always knowing that our best is good enough. And it's creating, if avoidance of certain things, is it creating a scenario where it's ruining the like quality of life
mm,
in a different way, then, you know, question if perhaps it is you have an extremist viewpoint. And I'll tell you a story that's kind of vulnerable about how this can go awry, if that's okay.
sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I have two kids, 13 and 11. And when I had orthorexia and I was very, very sick, my son was aware enough. He was very young. He was 3, 4, but aware enough to hear me and feel me, more importantly, from an energetic standpoint, so terrified of certain things. My
Mm,
daughter, on the other hand, came into that awareness when I was past it, when I was well and had found balance again. So just 2 years ago, my son was at a business fair, the same one we're going to do tomorrow. And he went by a booth and he thought he asked all the right questions, like, is this organic? Is this, so and so? And then he bit into it and then he had a bite and he was like, "Ooh, this is really good." And the kid said, "Yeah, there's M&Ms in there." And my son ran up to me and he was 11. He's very mature, very thoughtful, crying. He doesn't cry. And I said, "What in the world is wrong?" He's like, "I'm trying not to panic, but I just had an M&M."
yeah,
And so we've been in balance for a decade almost since, that dark time. But that's an example of how the pendulum can swing too far and imprint on children in a way that is not healthy. And so, anyways, I want to share that with people because
yeah,
we have to be very mindful of how we talk about things in front of others. So I'm gonna call you out on one quick thing. I
yeah.
know you work with lots of people and kids too. So there's no such thing as cheating. There's no
Mm.
such thing as cheating. Yeah.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. We've
Yeah.
got to watch our language around food
Yep.
because there isn't good food or bad food. There's no cheating. There's no failing. There's no I was bad. It's just, did I make an optimal choice for my physiology today? Maybe, maybe not.
Mm,
But I enjoy it and I let it go. I move on. And maybe I'm curious about what led me to that path today. Maybe I let myself get hungry. I wasn't prepared. And that allows us to move forward in a more balanced way
mm,
rather than getting caught in sort of the black and white of I'm on it, I'm off, I'm on
yep.
I'm off my diet.
Yep.
I don't
I
know.
love that. And I love that you called me out on that because it's easy to drop into that language.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like your son, it's been, like you said, it's been a decade.
Hmm.
But somehow that is still stuck in his head. And he felt like in that moment, he must have done something terrible, even though it was a total accident,
Yeah,
right?
and I
Accident,
don't demonize M&Ms at all,
right?
and haven't. I didn't think ever, but
Amazing.
apparently. And he said, after we had a long chat about it, he said, "I just was really proud that I had never had a food."
Oh,
So
wow.
I said, "That's great, bud, but it's not a moral failing either to
Yeah.
you die." So
That's it just shows how people can attach to things like
yeah,
that and even attach moral um
yeah,
moral weight
more
to
yeah.
such a decision, right? And you didn't even know that he was doing that he was busy doing.
No, no,
Just imagine how much
oh,
in his head he
terrible.
has suffered
Yes.
with just unknowing.
At my hand, absolutely. And I take full responsibility for that. And it really shapes my experience with orthorexia and those moments that come here and there. So since then he's had food dye, just to like
Sure.
clear that up. We've like course corrected those things. And he had a donut 2 days ago, like full on Krispy Kreme without yeah, the
Nice.
donut today. It was delicious. Um,
Yeah.
so we're fine. We're fully recovered from that.
Yeah.
It was a learning opportunity, but it has
Sure.
deeply shaped the way that I work with families,
Yeah.
children, and
Yeah.
food allergies and sensitivities and how we approach those things in the ecosystem of the family, to make sure that we never create any sort of bad, like unhealthy relationship with food.
Yeah.
It's a really big deal.
Yeah. I love it. Would you at this point mind sharing the name of your business and the different ways that people can contact you if they decide to
Yeah,
go that way?
Foundational Wellness Solutions, and we have an amazing team. So please go meet them there. Asher is there, and we're so honored to have him on board. And we have a holistic gynecologist who is our women's health specialist. We have other practitioners who specialize in different things. So come meet everybody. It's www.foundationalwellnesssolutions.com. And if you wanted to come and have a consultation, you can do that virtually with us, and we will decide on what would be the best approach for helping you achieve your highest goals.
Beautiful. Sadie, thank you so much
Oh,
for
thank
joining
you
us
so
today.
much. Yes, thank
Such a
you.
pleasure. Let's do it again sometime,
Always.
okay?
Yep, definitely. Bye bye.